Okay, so today I will tell you the basic concepts of arrhythmias, not only the basic concepts but also their ECG pattern, underlying mechanism and their management also. Okay, please watch this video till the end because I know this video is too long, but this video is very informative. Okay, so let's start the topic. So first of all, we need to learn the basics of arrhythmia. What is the definition of arrhythmia? The basic definition of arrhythmia is when heart lost their rhythm, condition are known as arrhythmia. Condition are known as arrhythmia. Or we can say when there is no regular rhythm of the heart, the condition is known as arrhythmia. Okay. So before starting lecture of arrhythmia, first I will tell you the normal rhythmic pattern, or we can say the normal rhythm of heart. Okay, so what is the normal rhythm of heart? Normally the normal rhythm of the heart is about 60 to 100 beats per minute. It means every 1 minute the heart beat 60 to 100 times. But when heartbeat decrease from 60, the condition are known as bradyarrhythmias. The condition are known as bradyarrhythmias. And when heart rate increase from above 100 times, the condition are known as tachyarrhythmia. So what is arrhythmia? Arrhythmia is when heart lost their normal rhythm, the condition is known as arrhythmia. And there are two types of arrhythmias, either it is bradyarrhythmia or either it is tachyarrhythmia. First of all, you have to learn the normal heart rate. The normal heart rate is about 60 to 100 beats per minute. When heart rate decrease from 60, the condition are known as bradyarrhythmia, or when heart rate increase from 100, the condition are known as tachyarrhythmia. Right. So on the basis of these two categories, bradyarrhythmia and tachyarrhythmia, arrhythmia are further classified. On the basis of bradyarrhythmia or tachyarrhythmia, arrhythmias are further classified, and here is the classification. So first of all, this bradyarrhythmia or tachyarrhythmia are classified on the basis of location. On the basis of location, either it is developed from the SA node or atria, or from the AV node, or from ventricles. So first of all, I will describe you the location where bradyarrhythmia or tachyarrhythmia arises. Okay, so let's start first bradyarrhythmias. Then later on I will tell you the tachyarrhythmias. Right. So let's start bradyarrhythmias. And remember that when there is bradyarrhythmia, the heart rate decrease from 60 beat per minute. The heart rate decrease 60 beat per minute. And this bradyarrhythmia can be arises different parts of the heart. For example, it can be arise from the SA node, it can be arise from the atria, it can be arise from the AV node, it can be arise from the bundle of His, and it can be arise from the bundle branches and from the Purkinje system. So there are different locations where it can be arises, right? Another one thing that is very important to understand the arrhythmias, the ECG pattern, the normal ECG pattern of the heart. I will not give you the detail of ECG, but I will give you the short review of ECG. Alright, so here is the baseline, right? And when impulse generated by the SA node, when SA node generating signals or producing impulses, the current spread to all over the body. The current spread from SA node to all part of the body, that is recorded by the ECG machine. And when SA node start to generate impulse, the ECG machine show a first wave, and this first wave is known as P wave. This first wave is known as P wave. And it indicates the SA node generating impulse, right? And when this impulse spreading into the atrium as well as into the AV node, this AV node, you know, the AV node is very slow conductor. AV node is a very slow conductor, and the reason being, the cells which is found in the AV node is very small in size. And second reason is that AV node has small gap junction. And what is gap junctions? Gap junctions are the channel like structures that connect the individual cells, and due to this individual connection, the current from one cell to another cell is very easy to go, right? So this AV node, why it is slow? Because their cells are so much small in size that provide resistance to the incoming current. And the second reason why AV node is slow, because they have less number of gap junctions, and due to the less number of gap junctions, they don't allow fast conduction. And that's why AV node called a slow conductor. So when current passing from this AV node produce resistance, because AV node is a slow conductor, the ECG machine does not pick the impulse when current passing from the AV node, and that's why ECG show a simple straight line, and that means ECG machine cannot pick the AV nodal conduction. Now when after this AV node, the current passing from the bundle of his and bundle branches and to the Purkinje system, and bundle branches and Purkinje system is very fast. The reason being, their cells are long cylindrical, and the second reason is they have lots of gap junctions. That's why bundle of his and bundle branches and Purkinje system are very fast, and that's why the ECG machine pick very fast, and they show a combination of waves, and this combination of wave are known as QRS complex. QRS complex. And I am not giving you the detailed lecture on ECG, because that's why I am not explaining what is the meaning of Q wave, what is the meaning of R, what is the meaning of S. Right now I only want to tell you the arrhythmia, and that's why I was explaining the basics of ECG, right? And again, when major ventricular are depolarized, no incoming impulse can reach into the ventricle, and the reason being, ventricles are in the period of refractory period. Ventricles are in the form of refractory period. And what is refractory period? Refractory period means a time in which all the muscle fibers are in the depolarized form. All the muscle fibers are in the form of depolarized form and cannot receive the incoming impulse, and due to which it cannot further depolarize, and the period is known as refractory period, or normally you can say that the period at which a new impulse cannot passing from the depolarized muscle fibers, and that's why it's called refractory period. It means it is the period in which no impulse passing from the depolarized muscles, right? So now ventricle depolarized in a long time because it is a big structure and it has a lots of myocytes. And again they show a isolated line. Why it is show isolated line? The reason being because ventricles are in the form of refractory period, right? And after that depolarization, ventricles start to repolarizing, and when a ventricle start repolarizing, they again produce a wave, and this wave is known as T wave. This wave is known as T wave. So P wave show the SA node depolarization, QRS complex show the major ventricular depolarization, and T wave show the major ventricular repolarization. And the first isolated line from the end of the P and from the end of the T to the Q, this isolated line shows the AV nodal delay, and from S to the T, this isolated line is the refractory period during which no new impulse can passing from the ventricles, because ventricles in the form of refraction, right? So after knowing this basic concept of ECG, now you are able to understand the arrhythmia. So right now come to the topic of bradyarrhythmia. Okay, so bradyarrhythmia are classified on the basis of their location. So first of all, I will tell you the bradyarrhythmia that arises from the SA node. And what is the reason being the bradyarrhythmia? When SA node does not able to generate normal impulse, when SA node does not able to produce normal impulse and it become slow down to produce impulses, the condition is known as sinus bradyarrhythmia. The condition is known as sinus bradyarrhythmia. So first location, on the basis of location, first I will tell you the sinus bradyarrhythmia and what is the reason of sinus bradyarrhythmia. And what is the reason of sinus bradyarrhythmia? So first example are, okay, first I will tell you the physiological mechanism during which sinus are depressed, and then I will tell you the pathological condition. During which physiological conditions are sleep. During sleep, the sinus are depressed, and the reason is your parasympathetic system is activated, and when your parasympathetic system is activated, they slow down the sinus node. And that's why they're producing in a very slow rate. Sleep, rest condition, and again in the rest condition your parasympathetic system is activated, and that's reduce your SA node activity. And the pathological condition are further divided into two conditions. Again, intrinsic problem and extrinsic problem. Intrinsic problem means when SA node lost their automaticity. Automaticity is the process in which SA node generate impulses in an automatic manner, right? The first intrinsic problem is automaticity. Okay, and what are the reasons that lost automaticity? First one is ischemic heart disease, and now second one is cardiomyopathy, Okay, the extrinsic factors are, normally these are the medications, these are the drugs, just like calcium channel blocker. Yeah, okay, first one is beta blocker, calcium channel blocker, or some metabolic problem, that is hypothyroidism, and those activities that increase vagal tone, right? So now what did you learn? What is bradyarrhythmia? Bradyarrhythmia means the heart rate is less than 60 beat per minute, and first bradyarrhythmia that is arises from the heart, that is found in heart, is sinus bradyarrhythmia. And sinus bradyarrhythmia means SA node does not generate the normal the rhythmic impulses, and they start to lose their activity day by day, and that's why they produce some less impulses, due to which the heart rate decrease from 60 beat per minute. And the conditions that lead to the sinus bradyarrhythmia divided into two categories. First one is physiological, and second one is pathological. Physiological, commonly when you are sleeping, and second one is when you are in the rest condition. Second one is pathological mechanism that lead to the sinus bradyarrhythmia are further divided into intrinsic problem or extrinsic problem. The intrinsic problem is when SA node lost their automaticity, right? And the diseases that lead to this loss of automaticity are ischemic heart diseases, and second one is cardiomyopathies, right? And second extrinsic factors are beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, hypothyroidism, and increased vagal tone. These are the some conditions that reduce the sinus activity, right? Okay, next, after SA node bradyarrhythmia, now come to the AV node bradyarrhythmias. It means why I am not telling you about the atrial bradyarrhythmias, because when SA node slow down, the atrium are also slow down, so that's when their interrelation, SA nodal problem or atrial problem, are same, because they have very close relation. That's why we are not talking about the atrial bradyarrhythmia. That's why I am only explaining the SA node bradyarrhythmia, right? And second, now come to the AV nodal bradyarrhythmia, right? So now right? Okay, so there are two problems that lead to the AV nodal Brady arrhythmias. The first one is conduction problem. That means there is some problems in the AV node that delay the conduction or sometimes stop the conduction. That's why heart reduce its activity, right? Now second category is escape rhythm. Please wait a while. I will explain the detail on escape rhythm, right? So now I want to draw a rough diagram right here. Okay, so here is the rough diagram. So what really happens in SA node in the conduction system? So first start the conduction problem, then later on I will tell you the escape rhythm. Now on the basis of conduction problem, there are two types of Brady arrhythmia related to the AV nodal. First one is first degree heart block, first degree heart block, right? Second degree heart block, and again third degree heart block, right? So now let's come to the first one. The first degree heart block means AV node normally delay about 0.2 second. AV node normally delays about 0.2 seconds. Okay, I will. Here is the ECG pattern. It is the P wave that shows the SA node depolarization, and this isolated line from here to here, this isolated line is the AV nodal delay. Normally this AV nodal delay is about 0.2 second. If this 0.2 second increase from 0.2 seconds, the condition is known as first heart block. And normally we can say, from starting of the P wave and from the starting of the QRS complex, the time period is known as PR interval. Due to the increase of delay, this PR interval are increased. The normal PR interval is about 0.2 second, and when there is first degree heart block, this PR interval increases from 0.2 second. So what is the ECG pattern of first degree heart block, right? Okay, first I will draw here is the normal ECG. So here is the normal ECG pattern. Now come to the first degree heart block. What is the representation on ECG page in when the condition is first degree heart block? So is the P wave, lengthening of PR interval, PR is complex. Now T wave, again is the P wave, and again lengthening, and QR is complex, T wave, and again P wave, lengthening. And here you can appreciate that normally in normal ECG the time period that is known as PR interval is short, in about 0.2 second, under 0.2 second. But when there is first degree heart block, this PR interval is increased from 0.2 seconds, and you can appreciate that all the PR interval are increased as compared to normal ECG. So this is the ECG. When you find the increased PR interval, the condition you suspect there is a problem in the AV node. Right? And what are the reasons that cause the first degree heart block? The first one, increased vagal tone. The second one is beta blocker. Third one is calcium channel blocker, digitalis toxicity, or we can say the myocardial infarction. And the MCQ's point is that when there is inferior wall myocardial infarction, the case is suspected there is problem in the AV node. when there is inferior wall myocardia, the first important pathological finding is AV nodal dysfunction, right? So after first degree heart block, now come to the second degree heart block, right? So I want to remove all these things so you can really understand the real concept of. So now come to the second degree heart block. Second degree heart block. Okay, first of all, second degree heart block are further divided into two categories. First one is Mobitz type 1, Mobitz type 1, and Mobitz type 2. And Mobitz type 1, also known as Wunsch-Bach heart block, Wunsch-Bach phenomena, Wunsch-Bach phenomena, right? So the Mobitz type 1, first of all, second degree heart block are further divided into, yes, Mobitz type 1 and Mobitz type 2. And Mobitz type 1 also known as Wunsch-Bach phenomena. That is the MCQ's point, right? So first I will tell you the Mobitz type 1 and then I will explain the Mobitz type 2, right? So what really happens in Mobitz type 1? The degree of AV delay is gradually increased until a P wave does not follow by the QRS complex. What really happens when there is second degree heart block, the degree of AV delay is gradually increased from one impulse to another until one P wave is drop QRS complex. So I know there is some little bit confusion in your mind that I will solve in a very easy way. Okay, first of all, the normal ECG. What is the normal ECG? Right, here is the P wave, right? QRS complex, T wave, right? And again P wave, delay, QRS complex, T wave, P wave, and again delay, right? What really happens in Mobitz type 1 second degree heart block? Now P wave, QRS complex, T wave, right? Now second P wave, delay are increased as first impulse, as first delay, right? Now QRS complex and again T wave, and again P wave, there is again delay, and this P wave not followed by QRS complex and only T wave. Now again P wave and short their duration, QRS complex and again P wave. But what you really seen in this pattern, first the PR interval is small, but as compared to second impulse the PR interval are increased, and in the third one the PR interval is increased more than that in the previous impulse, and this P wave is not followed by the QRS complex, and again the cycle repeat. So what really happens in Mobitz type 1, the degree of AV delay increase slowly gradually until a QRS complex is dropped, right? And again cycle repeat. The condition is known as Mobitz type 1 heart block. Now comes to the Mobitz type 2. Now come to the Mobitz type 2. What really happened in Mobitz type 2? In contrast to the Mobitz type 1, in Mobitz type 2, there is no gradually slowly delay of PR, but the PR interval will remain constant until a QRS complex is dropped. What really happens in Mobitz type 2, the PR interval remains constant, but some P waves not followed by the QRS complex, right? Now I will explain you in the pattern. So what you really see, the PR interval remains constant, but one of the P wave remains constant, one of the P wave does not followed by the QRS complex. Here you can appreciate that there is no QRS complex. So the main difference between the Mobitz type 1 and Mobitz type 2 is this: in Mobitz type 1, slowly the delay of AV nodal is slowly increased, gradually increased until a P wave is not followed by the QRS complex, or we can say the QRS complex is dropped. But in Mobitz type 2, the peer interval remains constant, but some of the p waves does not followed by the QRS complex, or we can say some QRS complex are dropped, but peer interval remains constant. When this condition is fine, the pattern is known as Mobitz type 2. Again, what is the second most important phenomena that you have to remember? In the Mobitz type 1, there may be some problem in the AV node. Obviously, I told you, any problem related to the inferior wall of the heart, you always find AV nodal dysfunction. So in Mobitz type 1, there is problem in the AV node, but in Mobitz type 2, problem is in the Purkinje-His system. Purkinje-His system means bundle of His, bundle branch, or Purkinje system. When there is problem in the bundle of His, bundle branches, and Purkinje system, the condition is known as type 2. And Mobitz type 2, the pathological condition that lead to the Mobitz type 2 are interior wall MI, myocardial infarction. Remember that in Mobitz type 1, inferior wall MI lead to the Mobitz type 1, but interior wall MI lead to the Mobitz type 2. Right? Now come to the third degree heart block. Third degree heart block. So what really happened in third degree heart block? This AV node is completely blocked. In third degree heart block, the AV node is completely blocked. This means the SN node, the signals of SN node does not pass from atria into the ventricle. Right? When there is third degree heart block, the impulse from the SN node does not pass from atria to the ventricle, and atria and ventricle are contracting independently. Right? Third degree heart block also known as complete heart block. And what is the pattern of third degree heart block? P wave, right? QRS complex, and again T wave and QRS complex. There is no P wave, and again T wave. There is P wave, but there is no QRS complex, and again P wave, delay, but QRS complex, T wave. So what you really find in ECG, there is irregular pattern of impulses. Just like in here you can appreciate that. This P wave is followed by QRS complex, but in this there is delay more than the previous impulse, right? But in contrast to the third pattern, only P waves are found, but their QRS complex are not found. And again in the fourth one P waves are found, but there is no again QRS complex. And so what you find in ECG, there is irregular pattern. Sometimes you find P waves, sometimes you find only QRS complex, and sometimes you find sometimes you find P waves as well as QRS complex. So there is no regular pattern found in ECG, and the condition you have realized the third degree heart block. And normally this third degree heart block is related to the AV node. That's mean it is related to the inferior wall MI, right? So after third degree heart block, now come to the junctional escape rhythm. Previously we discussed that there are two types of bradyarrhythmia in AV node. First one is AV nodal, and the second one is escape rhythm. So now time comes to classify the escape rhythm, right? Escape rhythm means normally all the myocytes of the heart are under the control of SN node. That's why SN node are called pacemaker. When SN node generate impulses, they pass all parts of the ventricle or atria and depolarize it. But when there is third heart block, this SN node, the impulse from the SN node cannot pass into the ventricles, and the reason is the connection, and the reason is AV block, because AV node received the impulse from the SA node and sent to the Purkinje His system, that spread the current to the ventricles. But right now this AV node is blocked. Previously I told you this bundle branch, this bundle of His, bundle branches and Purkinje system has the capability to produce impulses, to generate automatic impulses. But in normal condition, this automaticity is under the control of SA node. But when this bundle of His and Purkinje system escape from the SA node, they are not suppressed as previously, right? So they start to produce automatic impulses, right? So escape rhythm means the ventricles are not depolarized through SA node, but it depolarized through outside the SA node, that is bundle of His, bundle branches or Purkinje system, right? But one thing that is very important, the firing rate of bundle of His and Purkinje system, bundle of His or Purkinje system has slow, and that's the reason why this bundle of His and bundle branches are under the control of SA node, because SA node has the high firing speed, or we can say a rapid firing speed. That's why SA node firing in a very speedy manner, and due to which this bundle of His is under the control of SA node. But when there is no impulse coming from the SA node, this bundle of His is escape from the SA node, or we can say escape under the control of SA node, and they start to produce their own impulses, but their rate are almost slow. The normal rate produced by the SA node is about 60 to 100 beats per minute, but when bundle of His producing impulses, the rate is between the 40 to 60 beat per minute. So what we really find in ECG, P wave, QRS complex, right? Okay, P wave, QRS complex, and T wave, again P wave, QRS complex, and T wave, P wave, QRS complex, again T wave. So what we really find in ECG, from R to R distance, that normally tells you about the heart rate is increased. The time period between the R to R interval is increased, and that's why they show the heart rate is decreased, and it is about 40 to 60, right? I think you understand the concept of escape rhythm. And when this escape rhythm arises from the AV node, they are called junctional escape rhythm, right? And when this escape rhythm arises from the ventricles, they are called ventricular escape rhythm. And okay, when escape rhythm arises from the junction, the junction means from bundle of His or this bundle branches or Purkinje system, the whole are known as junctional escape rhythm. But when the escape rhythm arises from the myocytes of the ventricles, that arises from the myocytes of the ventricles, the escape rhythm are known as ventricular escape rhythm. And okay, what is the differential point between the AV nodal or junctional escape rhythm and ventricular escape rhythm? Ventricular escape rhythm is more slow as compared to junctional escape rhythm. It is about 40 beats or slower beats per minute, as range in between 30 to 40. So, and again on the ECG paper, what we really find, the P wave, QRS complex, P wave, and you really find that the QRS complex is more larger or increase in their width. So when you find QRS complex width is increased, or we can say the time period of the QRS complex is increased, the condition is related to the ventricular escape rhythm. In junctional escape rhythm, the QRS complex remains normal, but there are interval increases, and that's why they show the beat is normally 40 in between the 40 to 60. But in ventricular escape rhythm, the heartbeat is decreased as well as their QRS complexes are increased in their width. Right. So now this is the whole classification of Brady arrhythmias, not tachyarrhythmia. So now up till now we are only complete the Brady arrhythmia, and on the basis of location there are multiple type of Brady arrhythmias. When the Brady arrhythmia arises from the SN node, it is known as sinus Brady arrhythmia. Okay, one thing that is missed in the lecture is 6 sinus syndrome. What is 6 sinus syndrome? Okay, let's start the 6 sinus syndrome. What is 6 sinus syndrome? 6 sinus syndrome, right? And this 6 sinus syndrome are also known as Brady tachyarrhythmias. And how it is initiated? First of all, it is initiated in the atrial flutter. Later on I will tell you what is atrial flutter or atrial fibrillation. Please don't be confused these terminologies, because I have a separate lecture on this particular words, right? So what really happens in atrial flutter or atrial fibrillation, just for the information purpose, in atrial flutter and in atrial fibrillation, the heart rate is increased. And when heart rate is increased, first there is a phenomena of tachycardia. After a certain time, to stop the atrial flutter or atrial fibrillation, strong vagal signals arise from the brain, and that causes Brady arrhythmia for a certain time. And that's why this tachyarrhythmia and Brady arrhythmia arises in case of atrial flutter and atrial fibrillation. Initially tachycardia occur due to the atrial flutter or atrial fibrillation, but due to overcome the tachycardia, strong vagal signal arises from the brain that reduce the activity of the SN node, produces Brady arrhythmia, and the condition is known as Brady tachyarrhythmia, also known as 6 sinus syndrome, right? So we have completed the SN node sinus bradycardia 6 sinus syndrome, and AV nodal conduction block, first degree heart block, second degree heart block, and third degree heart block. We completed that now. And second one is junctional escape, we also completed it. We also discussed that. And the bradycardia related to the ventricles are ventricular escape rhythm, and it also discussed that, right? So now time comes to classify the tachyarrhythmias. And tachyarrhythmia, first of all, in sinoatrial node, when tachyarrhythmia arises from the SN node, condition are known as tachyarrhythmia, or it arises from the atria are known as atrial premature beat, atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, right? And when it arises from the AV node, it is known as paroxysmal reentrant tachycardia or AV nodal tachycardia, right? And when it arises from the tachycardia arises from the ventricle, for the first category is ventricular premature beat, the second one is ventricular tachycardia, and the third one is tertiary points, and the last one is ventricular fibrillation. So let's start the tachycardia. Okay, so let's start the tachyarrhythmias. So tachyarrhythmias, right? And there are 3 factors that trigger this tachycardia, and first one is increased automaticity, reentry, and last one is trigger activity. Right. Now, first of all, what is the definition of tachyarrhythmia? When heart rate increase, or we can say heart rate the heart rate is above 100 beat per minute, the condition is known as tachycardia. and there are three factors that trigger tachycardia. The first one is increased automaticity, second one is re-entry, and the third one is trigger activity. Now first of all, increased automaticity. Increased automaticity means there are some factors that increase the automatic character of SN node or any other pacemaker that is found in the heart, and those factors are, or we can say those factors that increase the depolarization activity of the heart. Those factors that increase the depolarization activity of the heart are known as increased automatic characters, right? So these are beta 1 adrenergic activity, right? And there must be beta 1 adrenergic activity, okay, activity, and maybe physiologically exercise, and in pathological condition just like fever, and in anemia condition, and in hypoxemia, and also sixth one is thyrotoxicosis, and that is hyperthyroidism, right? Number 7th is heart failure. These are some causes that lead to the increased automatic character of the SN node or any other pacemaker that is found in the heart, right? And the first one is beta adrenergic activity, second one is exercise, fever, anemia, hypoxemia, thyrotoxicosis, and heart failure. All these factors lead to the increased automaticity. Re-entry means normally what really happens when atria discharge, when SN node discharge, it send impulse to different parts of the atria, right? And this impulse from atria are then passed into the AV node, and from AV node to the ventricles, right? But due to some reason, if any part, or we can say any path is blocked, if any path, or we can say any part of the heart is blocked, then what really happens, the SN node send a signal, and this signal does not pass from this area because this area is blocked, but it passes from this area to depolarize the atria, right? But it is the normal physiological phenomena. But when there is repeatedly, when SN node sends signal again and again, sometimes this signal re-enter into the block pathway, and when signals are passing from again and again, they create a high grade potential. This high grade potential cross this block part to discharge the normal part, and due to this phenomena, the circuit is formed. The circle, or we can say the re-entry is formed. The re-entry means the signals which is coming from the SN node, it's passing from a single part, non-block part, or we can say the open part, and discharge the atria, but some impulses from this open part goes into the block part, and here it accumulate the potential, and due to repeatedly action potential, here is form a high grade potential, and this high grade potential discharge cross this block part and discharge the normal part, and they form a re-entry circuit. And due to this re-entry circuit, the part where this re-entry occurs are discharged again and again, and due to which tachycardia occurs. So there is the mechanism of re-entry. Through this re-entry mechanism, tachycardia occurs. And the third category is trigger activity. Trigger activity means normally SN node discharge all parts of the heart. Normally what really happens, this SN node send a signal to the atria, and from atria to AV node, and from AV node into the ventricles. But when there is ectopic pacemaker formation, when there is ectopic pacemaker formation outside the SN node, they discharge independent from the SN node. They produce some other, they discharge different parts of the atria independent of the SN node, and this activity is known as trigger activity. This activity is known as trigger activity. So it is the abnormal outside abnormal ectopet pacemaker formation, right? And this pacemaker discharge independent of the SA node, and due to which tachycardia occurs. So these are the three phenomena through which these tachycardias or tachyarrhythmias occurs. The first category is increased automaticity, second one is re-entry, and the third one is trigger activity. Let's classify this tachycardia. These are the factors, and now classify the tachycardia. So first of all, tachycardia are classified into two groups. The first group is known as supraventricular tachycardia, and the second category is known as simply ventricular tachycardias, right? So tachycardia are further divided into two categories. First one is supraventricular tachycardia and ventricular tachycardia or tachyarrhythmia, right? So the supraventricular tachycardia are those tachycardias that is above from the bundle of His. Those tachycardias that occurs above the bundle of His, those tachycardias are known as supraventricular tachycardias. Either it develop in the AV node, either it develop in the atria, either it develop in the SA node. So supraventricular tachycardia now further divide into sinus tachycardia. Later on I will tell you detail of this particular tachycardias. Second category is atrial premature beat, and third classification is atrial flutter. Fourth one is atrial fibrillation, and fifth one is AV nodal re-entry tachycardia. Right? So these are the supraventricular tachycardias. First one is sinus tachycardia, second one is atrial premature beat, atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation, and AV nodal re-entry tachycardia. Right? Now ventricular tachycardia are further divided into ventricular premature beat, right? Ventricular tachycardia, and third one is ventricular fibrillation, okay, fibrillation. So now time comes to study the individual tachycardias, right? So let's start the first tachycardia, that is sinus tachycardia. So sinus tachycardia. Okay, so what is the meaning of sinus tachycardia? Sinus tachycardia means, first of all, the heart rate is above 100 degree and below 180. Sinus tachycardia means the range between the heartbeat is about 100 to 180 beat per minute. It means if heartbeat is about 100 to 180, the condition known as sinus tachycardia. And okay, the first very important point to be noted here is in this tachycardia, P waves is normally followed by QRS complex. It means there is no problem in the conduction. There is problem in the development of the automaticity, right? In sinus tachycardia, every P wave followed by QRS complex. For example, if P wave produce 3, now QRS complex also produce 3. It means there is a normal conduction. But fast conduction, or we can say rapid conduction, right? So, and what are triggers that cause sinus tachycardia or tachyarrhythmia? And previously we discussed that just like beta 1 adrenergic receptor activation, right? And anemia condition, right? And hypoxemia, thyrotoxicosis, fever. These all lead to the sinus tachycardia. And what is the pattern? What is it? So here is the P wave, QRS complex, T wave, P wave, QRS complex, T wave, P wave, QRS complex. So the RR interval from R to R interval are decreased. R to R interval, normally the R to R interval is about 0.12 seconds. The RR difference is about 0.12 seconds. But if this time is short, the condition is known as sinus tachycardia, and approximately the heart rate is about 100 to 180 beat per minute, right? So let's talk about the next. The next one is atrial premature beat. Atrial premature beat. What is the meaning? Atrial premature beat. And what is the meaning of atrial premature beat? Now come to the diagram. If some part of the atria start to act as pacemaker and depolarize the whole part of atria, this ectopic pacemaker formation that depolarize the atria before the depolarization of SA node, are known as atrial premature beat. Now I want to repeat it again. When there is any ectopic pacemaker formation within the atria that discharge the both atria before SA node discharges atria, the condition is known as premature beat formation. So normally what really happens in ECG, this P wave, QRS complex, T wave, and again P wave, QRS complex, and this is the T wave, and again P wave, QRS complex, and P wave, QRS complex, and T wave. Again it. So what we really saw, this is the normal R to R difference, this is the normal R to R length, but you can appreciate that this P wave is prematurely, or we can say it is present in between the normal SA nodal depolarization. This P wave is premature P wave. Why it is called premature? Because it appear before the normal SA node fires to produce P waves, right? So this is the premature P wave, right? That is produced before the SA node discharge to produce P wave, right? Now, and atrial premature beat triggered by re-entry, or it is triggered by some re-entry, myocardial infarction, ischemic diseases. All this lead to the premature beat formation. Now let's come to the, again, very important, atrial flutter. Atrial flutter means the range of the heartbeat or heart rate is about 180 to 300 beat per minute. When heart rate increases from 180 to 300 beats per minute, the condition is known as atrial flutter. What really happens in atrial flutters? Now come to the diagram. In atrial flutter, there is one large re-entry formation. Occurs. This re-entry start from the interatrial septum. This interatrial septum goes down and discharge the AV annulus fiber, and this annulus fiber then move in a retrograde formation into the atrial wall and again re-enter into the circuit. So this is the whole large size re-entry circuit that depolarize the atria again and again and produce the flutter waves, and the condition is known as atrial flutter. So first of all, there is a large re-entry circuit formation that lead to the flutter, that lead to the repeatedly discharge of atria, and that produces atrial flutter, right? And what you saw, is a okay. The unique point to remember in atrial flutter is they produce a wave or ECG. The pattern of ECG are known as tooth-saw pattern. Tooth-saw pattern. The pattern which is found in atrial flutter are known as tooth-saw pattern or sinusoidal pattern. Sinusoidal. Okay, sinusoidal pattern. Right. So now I will draw it here. And you can appreciate that there is no normal P waves formation. It look like the P waves form in a very rapidly and goes down very rapidly, right? They appear very rapidly and also goes down very rapidly. Therefore, the duration between the P wave is almost less than 0.12, and due to which there is no regular pattern, or we can say that there is normal P wave formation. There is no normal P wave formation, and this arrangement is known as sawtooth pattern. Sawtooth pattern, or sometimes it is called tooth-saw pattern. Both terminologies are interchangeable, or you can also write it sinusoidal pattern, right? Now the last category is known as atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation. What will happen in atrial fibrillation? First of all, when heart rate increase from 300 to 600 beats per minute, the condition are known as atrial fibrillation. When the heart rate increase from 300 to 600 beats per minute, the condition are known as atrial fibrillation. And in this condition, there are many foci, or we can say many re-entry circuit are formed within the atria, and they start automatically to produce different waves that goes down in different way, and they produce some waves, and those waves are known as fibrillation waves, and the condition is known as atrial fibrillation. And the point that you have to remember here is, in atrial fibrillation, the ECG pattern is irregular. And in atrial fibrillation, more than ECG, more than one foci are found. If you contrast the atrial fibrillation from the atrial flutter, in atrial flutter, one large re-entry circuit are formed in the atria, but in atrial fibrillation, many foci are found in the atria that produce automatic discharge, right? And also in atrial flutter, the ECG pattern is regularly arranged, but in atrial fibrillation, the ECG doesn't show any regular pattern. It shows a irregular pattern, just like this. If you find this type of condition, then you probably call it is atrial fibrillation, right? Now these are the atrial or sinus tachycardias. Now come to the junctional tachycardias that is produced in the AV node. So the junctional tachycardias, and just the point is very important to remember that junctional tachycardias are also included in supraventricular tachycardia, because the definition is supraventricular tachycardias are those tachycardias that normally occurs above the bundle of His, right? So let's start the junctional tachycardias. And junctional tachycardias means there is problem in the AV node, and junctional tachycardia are first of all divided into atrioventricular nodal tachycardia. In short form, we can write it AV and RT. Okay, here you can include re-entry. So junctional tachycardia first of all divided into atrioventricular nodal re-entry tachycardia, and simply you can call it AV and RT, right? Atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia, right? So first of all, we discuss AV and RT, and then we discuss AV RT, that's mean atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia, AVRT. Okay, let's start. First of all, AV and RT, this means atrioventricular reinventive tachycardia. So there in this tachycardia, the most important problem is in AV node. So I want to draw it here, AV node. So AV node has two pathways. AV node, within the AV nodes there are two pathways. The first pathway is slow pathway. And the second pathway is fast pathway. And normally what really happens when conduction from the atria comes to the AV node, it receives from both sides. But this is the slow system, this is the fast system, and normally the impulse which is coming from the atria and enter into the AV node, normally SA node that enter into the fast pathway are directly goes down into the bundle of His. But this slow pathway are also goes, but this is the slow pathway and it take times to reach the bundle of His, and therefore it cannot depolarize the bundle of His, because previously fast pathway depolarized the bundle of His, and at this time when bundle of His is depolarized, it is in the condition of refractory period. What is the refractory period? Refractory period is a period in which all the muscle fibers are depolarized and no new depolarization are occur. When all the muscles of the heart are depolarized, no new signal are passing from this depolarized cardiac muscle, and the reason being because already these muscles are depolarized, so that's why it cannot allow to pass the new impulse or new depolarizing current. So the refractory period is the period in which no new impulse can passing from the depolarized muscle because it is already depolarized. So here is this mechanism is fit into this category in which the in AV node the fast pathway depolarize the bundle of His, and when slow pathway reach to the bundle of His, and it cannot depolarize the bundle of His because a position, and due to which the period is going on refractory period. So this is the normal physiological phenomena. But if this fast pathway is blocked, there is no signal goes from AV node to the bundle of His, but this slow pathway slowly start to depolarize the bundle of His because fast pathway is blocked, and sometimes this slow pathway it re-enter into the block pathway, and it repeatedly depolarize the block path, and finally the large potential cross this barrier and enter into the fast pathway, and they form a circuit, and this circuit is known as re-entry circuit that is formed within the AV node. That's why it is called atrioventricular nodal re-entry tachycardia. Right? So this is AVRT. This is AVNRT, right? This is AVNRT, right? So this is the mechanism. Now the second category is atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia. Now let's talk about the AVRT, that is atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardias. And this, first of all, this phenomena is also known as Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. Again, this atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia are also known as Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. In this syndrome, there is, okay, I will draw it here. Here is the heart, right, and here is the AV node. In this disease, the signals from the SA node not only pass from the AV node, but it also pass from the SS3 pathway and enter to the and depolarize the ventricular myocardium, right? What really happens in Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome, the SA node, the signals from the SA node are not only enter into the AV node, but also it goes down into the ventricle through SS3 pathway, and this SS3 pathway along with this normal pathway collectively discharge this ventricle, and the condition are known as Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. And this Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome are further divided into three categories. First one is sinus Wolff-Parkinson's White syndrome. right? Second one is orthodromic white Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, and third one is antidromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, right? So in the first condition, that is sinus Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. Okay, in the sinus Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, what really happens, this ventricle is depolarized from AV node as well as from the accessory pathway, but this accessory pathway is fast as compared to AV nodal pathway, and the reason being because AV node has less gap junctions as well as their cells are small in size as compared to the myocytes present in the accessory pathway. They have long lasting cells and also have gap junctions, and due to which the signals from the SN node that passing from the accessory pathway depolarize early as compared to AV node. The signals from the AV node also depolarize the ventricle, but in the later. First this accessory pathway depolarize, and that's why normally what will happen in ECG, the P wave followed by isolated line and then form QRS complex, again T wave, right? But in sinus Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, what really happens, the P waves are normal, but there is no delay, and QRS complex are directly formed because the AV nodal delay shows the PR interval, but there is no PR interval because these ventricles are discharged from the this accessory pathway, and due to which there is no delay and P wave is directly stimulate the QRS complex, right? And also QRS complex are wide, and why QRS complex are wide, because after passing from the AV node, the signals goes into the bundle of His and Purkinje system, and bundle of His and Purkinje system is the fast system. Again, bundle of His and Purkinje system is very fast as compared to this accessory pathway, right? So in accessory pathway, conduction is fast, but it is not fast as bundle of His and Purkinje system, and that's why the QRS complex form in accessory pathway. The QRS complex forms through accessory pathway is always widened, because if Purkinje system depolarize the ventricles, the QRS complex are always narrow because it is fast. It is the fastest, we can say it is the fastest pathway in the whole heart, right? And the second one is orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, and what really happens in, okay, now let's come to here. Now come to here. What really happens in orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, the signals from the SN node come down into the AV node, and from AV node they pass again into atrium through accessory pathway in a retrograde manner. Again, when this SN node discharges the AV node, they depolarize the ventricle, and as well as the signals goes up through the accessory pathway and depolarize the atria again, and they produce the tachycardia, and this condition is known as orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. Okay, in sinus Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, the two pathways are formed, and both of these pathways only discharge the bundle of His and ventricles. But in orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, the SN node discharge the AV node, and this AV node not only discharge the bundle of His but also discharge the accessory pathway, and this accessory pathway goes up into the atria and produce tachycardia. So in orthodromic, what you really found, you found that P wave is inverted. The P wave is inverted because the current entering from down to up, and due to which they produce the current that is negative in this, due to which the ECG show P waves in a down, right, and normal QRS complex and T waves also. So if you find P waves in lower side, now the probable reason is orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. And again, orthodromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome is the most common form of Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. It is the most common form of, it is the MCQ's point, it is the most common form of Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. And third one is antidromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome. In this syndrome, it is opposite to the orthodromic. Antidromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome is opposite to the orthodromic. What really happens in antidromic Wolff Parkinson's white syndrome, the ventricles are discharged from the accessory pathway, and this accessory path, the signals from the accessory pathway not only discharge the ventricles but also goes up through the AV node, enter into the atrium and depolarize the atrium, and this condition is known as antidromic Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Again, the signal from the SN node pass into the accessory pathway, and this accessory pathway discharge the ventricles, and also it goes through the AV node into the upward towards the ventricle towards the atrium, and discharge the atrium in a retrogradely manner. So antidromic Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome is the opposite form of orthodromic Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, and this antidromic Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome normally found in atrial fibrillation. The characteristic feature of antidromic Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome is appear when atrial fibrillations are found, right? So these are the some junctional tachycardias. Now let's move into the ventricular tachycardias. Okay. Now ventricular tachycardia. And okay, so the ventricular tachycardias are further divided into these four categories. First one is premature ventricular tachycardia or premature ventricular beat, right? Ventricular tachycardia, tertiary point, and ventricular fibrillation. Now, first of all, premature ventricular beat or tachycardia. How premature ventricular tachycardia occurs? When there is ectopic foci formation that discharge repeatedly and independently from the bundle of Purkinje system. This ectopic foci depolarize the ventricle, and the phenomena is known as premature ventricular tachycardia or beat, right? And ventricular tachycardia means when there is 3 or more premature beat formation are occur or form, when 3 or more premature beat are produced, it lead to the ventricular tachycardia. So what is ventricular tachycardia and ventricular tachycardia? When 3 or more premature beats produced by the ventricles, the condition are known as ventricular tachycardia. Now what is tertiary point? First of all, tertiary point are produced in long QT syndrome. And what is the meaning of long QT syndrome? First of all, I want to draw in a normal ECG pattern. So here is the QT interval. Start from the Q wave and end with the start of T wave. Here is the QT segment, and here is the QT interval. From here to here is the QT segment, and from here to here is the QT interval. When this QT interval is increased, prolonged, the condition is known as long QT syndrome. You know, this isolated line shows the ventricular pose in which ventricles are depolarized. Form. So in tertiary point, in what really happens in tertiary point, polymorphic long depolarization are occurred. Polarization are occur, and in this condition ventricles are not found in the rest condition. Okay, in tertiary point, all the myocardial muscles is in the form of depolarization, and there is no repolarization. And what you see in tertiary point, the ventricular beat is just like because there is no repolarization of the ventricles, only ventricles are in the form of depolarized, and we can say that their refractive period are increased. So in tertiary point, refractive period are increased, repolarization are not occur, and prolonged depolarization are found, and it is normally found in long QT syndrome, right? This is known as tertiary point. The last one is ventricular fibrillation. And what is the meaning of ventricular fibrillation? Many reentry circuits are formed in the ventricles, and they discharge independently and rapidly, due to which ventricles are depolarized in a prolonged time, that produces a ventricular fibrillation, and the beat is range between 300 to 600 beat per minute, right? So what really happens in ventricular fibrillation? In ventricular fibrillation, many foci are found in the ventricles. They discharge independently from the Purkinje system, due to which ventricular fibrillation occurs. So these are the some arrhythmias, right? Let's recap. First of all, what is arrhythmia? Arrhythmia is the when heart lost their normal rhythmic pattern. The condition are known as arrhythmia, and arrhythmia are further divided into two categories: the bradyarrhythmia and tachyarrhythmia. When the heart rate is decreased from 60 beat per minute, the condition is known as bradyarrhythmia, and when the heart rate is increased from above 100 beat per minute, the condition are known as tachyarrhythmia. And bradyarrhythmia further divided on the basis of location. Either it is from the derived from the SA node, either it is derived from the atria, from junction or AV node, from the ventricles. There are different location where bradyarrhythmias are found, that we were discussed that, right? And tachyarrhythmia are further divided in again on the basis of location. First one is sinus tachyarrhythmia, atrial flutter, atrial fibrillation, and junctional AV nodal, right? Junctional and junctional tachycardias are further divided into two categories, that is atrioventricular nodal reentry tachycardia and atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardias. And this atrioventricular reciprocating tachycardia are also known as Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, and this Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome has three types. The first one is sinus, the second one is orthodromic, the third one is antidromic, that we have discussed that, right? And ventricular tachycardia are further divided into four categories. First one, premature ventricular tachycardia, Taceto point, and ventricular fibrillation. So these are the some classification of arrhythmias, and I hope you will enjoy this lecture. If you enjoy this lecture, please